We'll now call the meeting of the Waco City Council on September 17th, 2024 to order at 3:01 p.m. Waco. Welcome to the Waco City Council meetings today. Welcome everybody here in the Bosque Theater Gallery, and welcome to everybody at home, all the viewers at home. We have a full agenda today. We'll start the agenda off with a moment of silence. Okay, our first item on the business on the agenda is to recognize work session speakers. Is there anyone present who would like to speak on a work session agenda item today? There being no one, we will now recess that regular session and convene to work session with a report from the City Manager Bradley Ford.
Thanks, Mayor, and welcome, Council. I have sort of an abbreviated report this afternoon, given how many work sessions we have that are going to be highly informative. So really, I just want to say one thing, and it's important, because we have a great employee in the audience today, Nora Shell. And so it's a staff recognition. Nora, if you don't know who she is, she's back in the back. And Nora, you're going to have to wave. So Nora runs Lake Waco Wetlands for us. If you're not familiar, and we recently celebrated our 20th anniversary out at the wetlands, the opening of the Education Center there at the wetlands. And I won't go into all the history at the wetlands, but I did want to recognize Nora because she's been there since the get-go. And she's a great example of a dedicated city employee. She worked in parks as a park ranger for 18 years. She was a member of our mounted horse patrol ranger team. And then she became the first and thus far only program coordinator out at the wetlands. She served for more than 20 years managing the Education Center and all that goes on. She's taken at least 70,000 students through the wetlands and done tours and exposed them to that facility and telling the story of where we get our water from and what that journey looks like as it makes its way ultimately from the source all the way through the wastewater treatment plants. She's dealt with a lot out there, historic floods and droughts at the same time. She coordinates as well with Texas Parks and Wildlife. And we just wanted to say a special thanks to her for her dedication over these 20 years. And I think we have a short video we'd like to play highlighting some of the work. Maybe.
Mm-hmm. It's over there in the corner.
Oh, back over there.
But on this side. Go to the left. Go to the left. The left. Your other left. Look, I was like, your other left. That one. Ooh. Maybe not. Uh-oh. She's been through droughts, she's been through all of that, and taking us on tours and accidentally running into rattlesnakes. It's all good. We listen, all the things. But she was amazing. I just had my water tour, and it was really, really informative, but you know, I'm all big about edutainment, and I was not bored at all. The staff that she had working through and telling us the things and that she collaborates with are just amazing. So I'm grateful to you and all the things that you've done throughout your tenure at the City of Waco. That's multifaceted right there.
Yeah, I will just add to that because and echo that and second that because my kids have been out there. We're family friends with Baylor biology professor Robert Doyle. And he's taken us out there to the wetlands with kind of little church groups that have gone out. And it is an awesome facility, great partnership with Baylor and Corps of Engineers and educational and just to work on cleaning our water in that natural way is so wonderful. And it's been a great experience. So I echo my fellow council members' comments and grateful for your 20 plus years of service to the city and to our community like this.
There we go.
Yep.
Now we're cooking with gas.
Now we're gonna do it. Nora, congratulations, and this is, I appreciate you being with the city. We were out there, my wife teaches fourth grade at Bishop Lewis Riker, so we had her class out there this past spring, and I was able, I jumped out of my work and joined for the day, and it was such a fun time, and you bring the scientific aspects to it and the fun aspects to it, and you have them moving around, and just the tour of the wetlands is super amazing, and you're kind of the mother of that whole area out there, and it's been great for the city, and you've turned it into kind of an educational deal at the same time, while it's actually helping the city with the cleaning some of that water too. So really appreciate everything you've done, and also, I guess you were in our little PSA too. We'll see the PSA that Darius and I were part of. So I appreciate your work there too on the animal stuff. But anyway, thank you, and the wetlands is an amazing deal, and I appreciate your work out there.
Thanks, Nora. The agenda has two informal reports on there today, Council. The first is our typical investment report for the quarter ending June 30th. That's IR 696. And the second is IR 697. It's a follow-up on a request from Council on staffing recommendations for senior programming. As highlighted in the item, we're searching through our current list of vacant positions to identify something where we could reprogram, and if we're not able to find an existing position to reprogram for that purpose, we'll be including it in next year's budget. We do have 6 public hearings today. Clint will lead a work session on that here shortly. We have 52 resolutions on the agenda today. As you know, September's our heaviest month for resolutions, and we'll have another heavy agenda in October as well, because that's when our departments cycle through their annual work plans and vendors. So I'm not going to highlight any of the 52 in particular, but we're glad to take any questions or comments from the council on those resolutions at this time.
Any comments on the resolutions? There were a bunch of them today. As you said, they're kind of starting the house cleaning of paying all the bills. Some 50 resolutions, 50 plus. 57.
Did I have the wrong number? 57? Oh, sorry. It could be 57. We do have 6 ordinances on the agenda today. They're all on second reading. And with that concludes my report, Council.
We will now move to the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes Resolution 2024-713 through Resolution 2024-764. Are there any items that the council would like to remove from the consent agenda today? Everybody good with all of them? No conflicts for Councilmember Bordery today?
I don't believe so, knock on wood.
So the consent agenda includes resolutions 2024-713 through resolution 2024-764. The next item on the agenda is work session, items 2024-698 through 2024-702. City Manager Ford, would you please introduce the first work session?
Session is work session 698. It's a discussion of design updates for the new park at the Floyd Casey development, as well as a discussion of proposed park and street naming opportunities, a potential new heritage trail, and other cultural design efforts connected to the park. We've got Jonathan Cook, our Director of Parks and Recreation, at the table, as well as Clint Peters, Director of Development Services. I think Clint's got 3 presentations today, so he's just going to sit there. Hopefully he's got some water. And then also maybe setting the record is Jonathan. I think this is the 3rd or 4th meeting in a row that you're hearing from Jonathan. So lots of good things happening.
This is all him.
Lots
That
of good
clock's
things
the 3rd meeting in a row Jonathan's worn a tie as well.
Yeah, and they have not repeated yet.
No.
So I'm quite
Can't
impressed.
go back. Can't go back.
The skinny tie's up next, I hear. So we don't have any associated action items on the agenda for this, but Clint and Jonathan will be working through both the design updates in the park, also talking about naming various facilities in the park and adjoining the park, and just look forward to getting some council feedback on that. Guys?
Thank you, Bradley, and Mayor and Council. Always good to come to you with a presentation to look at the work being done on the design side of some of our park development projects. And it's exciting because that means the next step, we're getting closer to that construction and the dreams and the process becoming a reality. So today, as Bradley mentioned, we are here to provide an update on the current design and where we're at, status of the future park at the Floyd Casey development area. And wanted to provide and look at some cultural design efforts that have become really apparent through this process, and really some intentional planning that we've worked with our community members and then also our consultants to honor our local Hispanic heritage that we have here in Waco, and through the creation of a potential heritage trail. As we mentioned, we do have a proposal that a community task force has brought forth to Clint's department on the naming of the park and park amenities, and also working through Clint's office for potential street names around the development and near the park. And as I mentioned, the development of a heritage trail. Good timing here is we want to, and I do want to take time, and not only during this process, but, you know, Hispanic Heritage Month has become a solid tradition here in City of Waco, with multiple activities, not only on the city side, but from the community standpoint. And so this has been a really educational and informative process, but wanted to take note, we are here and want to make sure to honor our Hispanic heritage. It is Hispanic Heritage Month, and so there's some good timing on this presentation, as we found that this development area, many opportunities provide educational inclusive elements into the various projects. So we're here today, we want to get input on the design updates that you're going to see. Also on the two proposals for naming opportunities for park and park amenities, and then also those street names and the creation of that heritage trail. A little background of how we got here on this project, and as you may know, this is the site of the former Floyd Casey football stadium. And in 2022, there was a master development agreement that was signed for the development of the football stadium property, and that is underway. But at that time, you see Future Park noted at the top of the picture by the track facility. The city maintained ownership of approximately 30 acres of parkland along Waco Creek. And so it's really a process of really transforming that area into an active recreational area. Council did approve in the last 2 fiscal years a capital improvement allotment of $25 million for park design and construction, and we entered in an agreement with Design Workshop in July of 2023 to create that inclusive regional park that'll serve as a recreational hub with daily activation that not only meets the needs of the surrounding neighborhoods, but visitors to Waco and our entire city. As with any design process and working through with our consultants, we started out, did site analysis, and we got to the point of community open house meetings held in October and December of 23. And then we presented in council in March of 24 an overall vision, and now we further refined to get to the point where we're really getting to the end of design development. An overview of this area, it is a large stretch, linear sections of property that we really break into 3 areas. I mentioned the track and field earlier. You see that in orange or beige on the left. That purple area is really where the core is, across from the future Floyd Casey development. And then we've been working on not only that connection to get us over to where we can make some really good improvements to a historical Barrels Hill Park that we have over there, and really utilizing a trail system to connect these properties. So that's sort of the flat version, and as I mentioned, from the visioning process into where we're at now, I want to show you the current site plan that we do have in place. A little bit of small, but that's good because it shows you the amount of work that's being done across the board. But working our way, we will, on the left with the track, we'll have enhancements to that track facility with new surfacing, realignment of the infield to make it more of a flexible space to accommodate perhaps football games as well, not only track and field activities. Working on some of those infrastructure features, updating restrooms and the like. You'll see in the middle of this graphic, the creek comes through. There will be a pedestrian connection across that creek via a bridge, so you don't have to walk out into the street. And then you really get to the core of the project, where you'll see an interactive water feature, very expansive, inclusive playground area, just colorful and dramatic landscape architecture being planned for it. Right in the middle, you'll see a great lawn area that can be activated for large-scale events or family functions, open green space. And also in the preliminary site plan, we're working to include sports courts to accommodate everything from futsal to pickleball, and also looking at just some various components of other recreational amenities that can be added into this project. And as I mentioned, looking at that connection, we just recently did some updates to the ball field at Bells Hill, but working on a potential project for that driveway to really make it more accessible, and then connecting the two park areas over there. Part of the process is obviously further refining. We are still in what we call design development, the stage before construction documents are drawn up. But I wanted to give you a glimpse, and what I really think this shows is a lot of different elements, not only in the interpretive side for the Hispanic heritage, but also drawing in different design elements for a reflection of the colorful diversity that you'll often find, and really that sense of celebration. So even with the restroom building, really want to capitalize on some shade, but adding in some colors. These will be inclusive restrooms for all abilities, so making sure that everyone has a place and feels comfortable and know their needs are going to be met in the area. And then I show a brief glimpse here of the playground. And imagine here a playground and really the whole park, and you'll see the next picture, of sections to where you hear the sounds of kids playing. And really in the playground, this picture focuses on a sensory garden and mention that inclusivity to where all abilities can go throughout, but there will be multiple sections within this playground of different play features. We're looking at a dramatic component, that showstopper type of element, but I really love this picture of the kids playing and adding in things of music, touch, sounds, feel, those elements coming into play in the design. And here you have an interactive waterway feature, a fountain area, that one of the keys, this is going to be sort of a main entry plaza walking into the park. With the right hand side, you'll see some colorful elements of the playground. And what the intent was here in working was really a combination factor of not only that historical sort of water feature fountain you'll often see in like town squares in Central America or Mexico, but we wanted to take something to where, parents and grandparents have the ability to let their kids get out, cool off from the Texas heat. A little different from our traditional splash pad, but we'll have water spraying in different areas, and then also at night the area will be illuminated with different colors and patterns that'll match the water shooting. So we're excited to do that and work on that side of the project. As y'all know, sometimes in Texas it's hard to get out in the middle of the day, so those evenings with the lights, we really are going to create a dramatic effect. And I believe our next slide, we're going to be able to have a video here of a flyover, just sort of giving you an overall idea of where the concept is right now.
I'm going to clap. That's enough. 5 years.
Yeah, it's like I said, this is one of these presentations that we're just excited to make because you start to see right now, it's an open area that's often been used for pickup soccer or overflow parking. You're able to catch a glimpse of what we're looking at, where we're heading to really make this one of the more special park to rival others that we have here, but really just create a great park for our community. And it is quite exciting. And in our conversations, we talk about this park being a living museum, to where there is constant areas of activity, also really drawing on that cultural connection and being able to tell the story of the impact that our Hispanic community has had in our city. And then finally, you'll notice a lot of that landscape. We understand it is a wide open space, and so a really big emphasis on building, bringing in really mature trees, wetlands areas to complement, and native plantings as well that will be water wise. So a lot of exciting stuff happening with the park. I wanted to mention some upcoming milestones that we have. We are right at our 50% design development, so we'll be refining that over the next month to the end of October. Still a lot of work I want to mention. You notice the colors in the playground. We're really starting to get into what those actual features are. We know we want them to reflect the culture, but we also want to make sure the first and foremost, the accessibility factor. So working with different companies to make sure we're bringing in sort of the latest features that we have in terms of all abilities. We will be bringing, as we get to that design development, we want to go back out. We're scheduled for some further community input to be able to say, here's where we're at, and make sure we're not missing anything. And from there, we'll be hitting the ground running, and we'll go into March with construction documents to get this project bid out, and with the construction schedule set for May 25 to the fall of 26. Now, I mentioned the community side of things, and with the community meetings, we really begin to notice that highlighted desire to honor the Hispanic heritage and the Hispanic community. And so from that grew a community-led task force that got together, started brainstorming, met at the meetings, and members of that task force decided to come up with, okay, well, how can we take this a step further? Those members included Councilmember Rodriguez, and also Elaine Botello, Vidal de Leon, Isabel Lozano, Luis Garcia, and Mr. John Montez as well. And appreciative of the work and the research that they've done, and also just telling me the stories. And to be able to have these conversations to really take a step further into the history has been an honor for me. And that task force, they've been from day one committed to celebrate not only the Hispanic heritage, but the rich cultural diversity of Waco. And they came together with some proposals to say, hey, well, what areas of the parks or maybe the streets could we look at naming to honor local individuals? And they wanted to honor those legacy and achievements that Hispanic individuals have had on our history and culture. So the task force came in, they did submit a proposal to name the park amenities, and 2 streets in the area. And that's where Clint comes in, as the naming policy goes through the Historic Landmark Preservation Commission and also the Plan Commission. So I'll turn it over to Clint to walk us through that process.
Thanks, Jonathan. I'm going to use my park voice for this since I'm in a park presentation. So keep up with Jonathan.
You
So
can use
yeah.
any voice you want to use, but
Yeah. So we do have with all the naming opportunities for this, we actually have 3 different processes that we need to go through for all the naming potentials. The first being the park, and then the major park elements that you see up here. Through our naming policy, that does require a recommendation from a Historic Landmark Preservation Commission. They did meet last Tuesday, and the task force was present and presented the background on all the potential names. With the main name being Alice Martinez Rodriguez Park, and then you can see all the names for the elements of that. The commission did recommend approval of all the proposed names from the task force, keeping with the theme of a round of applause. We actually got a round of applause from the commission after they voted on it, which is pretty uncommon for boards, but it was very well deserved. This will be coming to council at a meeting in October as a resolution for your consideration. As part of the policy, it does require the commission to provide 3 different names. So in that background information for that proposal, you'll see some other options for the names, but these are the names that were recommended not only from the task force, but from the Historic Landmark Commission. And then moving on to our street names, it's a separate process. We have 2 different streets that are being proposed to be changed. One is actually a public right-of-way street, which is 29th Street between Clay and Dutton. That does require a name change approval, an ordinance through our Plan Commission, and then on to City Council. It is on the September Plan Commission agenda next Tuesday for 29th Street to be renamed to Ernesto Fraga Senior Street. And then there's 2 other streets, one being in the subdivision that will be handled under the subdivision plat by the developer. That's Williams Landing Street. That's the main street that will go into the new subdivision and be changed to Carlos Pacina Jr. Street, which will be a developer-led process. And then there's one of the names that was included on the previous slide that's internal to the park, the main entry street, that will be named through that process as well. And that will be coming to you, and you can see on the map here the section of 29th Street between Clay and Dutton that will be changed. That will be coming to you in October as well, but that will be an ordinance instead of a resolution. And just a note on this section of 29th Street, there's not any properties that are addressed off of it, so it will not have any impact to people's homes or businesses along there. We'll be able to approve the ordinance and then just change the street names out there, and it won't impact anybody's addresses.
Say that part again for me, please.
This section of 29th Street that's being changed, there's no properties that are addressed off of it.
Got it.
So we want to change anybody's address.
That was my question. I was like, does it have to be different than, because when we did Lester Street, because it was that part of Washington, it's a honorary naming.
Right.
And
Yeah,
so the street address still remains the same, but because that is not.
The case will be able to change the street name completely. It won't have to be honorary. And that is it on the 3 processes that we'll be going through, and all these will be coming to you in October.
So as we were working through this process and looking at the street names, I go back to that word connection and conversations after one of our public meetings that we had was talking about, well, how do we link this and perhaps create that heritage trail to our South Waco Community Center? To the new park. It's about a mile away, and as you see, 29th Street serves as a really solid corridor for a pedestrian or a bike route. So we came up with a goal to establish that connectivity between the new park and also our South Waco Community Center. As many of you know, our community center is home to the Waco Hispanic Museum, which showcases vibrant display and different pieces from Waco history and our Hispanic community. So we just saw a tremendous opportunity there. So what we focused on, our first connection is that 29th Street between Clay and Dutton that you just saw as a proposal to rename. The developer was already scheduled to have a sidewalk along that street. So we're working on a developer agreement to widen that sidewalk to create a pedestrian trail, and then also include different landscaping elements and benches and some interpretive kiosk style panel displays, so you can really read a story as you travel along the Heritage Trail. In the future, we would obviously be focusing on how do we get that second phase connection, a future connection along 29th Street. That one's a little more tricky due to the width of the street. It's also half of it is Beverly Hills on one side, City of Waco on the other, so it'll be a little bit more of an expansive project because we've got to look at property lines and just the width of the street right now that currently does not have any sidewalks. But yeah, the ultimate, like I mentioned, the goal is it just creates that idea, and this goes back to our master trail plan that we worked on here last year and the year before, of really being thoughtful and intentional with those creative connectivity pieces. And this one just plays into the fact to be able to further tell the story, not just with namings of the park, but tell the story of Waco's history along the trail. One more project, and I feel like a lot going on, Hispanic Heritage Month, and on October, we do have, right now, tentatively scheduled for October 1st council meeting, you'll be seeing a public art mural proposal coming from the Cesar Chavez Neighborhood Association and also Creative Waco, who approached and have been collaborating on an idea to honor a mural of Waco's Hispanic heritage. They are requesting for this mural to be placed at the South Waco Community Center, which we think further really plays into what we're trying to do here and create a cohesive effort. I mentioned they've been working with Creative Waco, my department on the center, also our City of Waco Beautification and Arts and Culture staff as well on this, and there will be a proposal that they will be bringing to you on October 1st tentatively. And there you see an artist that they have been working with as well, done several projects, really a talented artist, Mr. Jesus Riviera. With that, I just wanted to provide the summary, and I appreciate Clint and his team working on the naming process. So one, the design, being able to see really where this park is headed and how we're incorporating some cultural design efforts and intentional planning, and then also the Heritage Trail. The park and park naming opportunities, as we mentioned, they'll be brought back to you for official approval or discussion, and then also the street naming will be brought to council after it goes through the Plan Commission, and that is scheduled for next week. With that, Clint and I were happy to take any questions on this presentation.
Any questions or comments?
No questions, comments. Clint and Jonathan, I want to thank you all for helping us. The task force members, several of them who are here in the, I can't see that far, but I think I see 2, 3, 4 of us. Anyway, they worked so hard, and we researched a lot of information. Vidal de Leon is a walking Waco historian of all the Hispanic projects and issues and families from way, way back. It was so much fun, and I really enjoyed being a part of this task force because it brought back a lot of memories of things that happened to the Waco Hispanic culture and how it came to be and how we got spread out from where we were all a big community. Urban renewal and Interstate 35 really came in between our homes, and so from there we just went all over Waco. But we may have been separated, but we all remember what we used to do and what happened and how strong and close the Hispanic community was and still is. So it was an honor for me to be sitting there and listening to a lot of the members were bringing up and talking about. And we talked a long and lengthy process and coming up with names. I tried to stay in just, letting them take over. I was just kind of there. And Elaine Boteo did a beautiful job of documenting everything for us. Of course, Isabel Lozano, our principal, led us in the right direction all the time. She kept popping that whip and saying, we've got to go back to this. And like I said, Vidal de Leon is a walking Waco historian. If y'all ever want to know anything about Hispanic culture or families, he's the one. John Montes was there to tell us, hey, you guys need to stay on this, and this is what we need to do. And he kept us on track all the time, he and Isabel. And, but it was fun because we all learned and remembered. A lot of memories came back. I got kind of teary-eyed sometimes Because I remember my dad, my grandfathers, and all the other families that were so close. And it was an honor for me to be part of this committee. And I want to thank them for all the hard work that they did. It wasn't just the meetings that we had here. We had meetings outside the city facilities. And a lot of research was done. A lot of talking was done. A lot of memories were brought back. So these names weren't just, oh, well, let's do this. All this naming of these streets and projects had a reason. And these people that we're honoring did so much for the Hispanic culture at the time. Of course, there were so many more families and names that we could put out here, and so we're going to try and do that somehow on 29th Street. But y'all, it was a really fun project for me as a council member to be there and listen, and memories brought back. And I really want to thank my task force, and Jonathan and you and Clint as well, because y'all were there as well. But my task force, kudos to you, and I love all of y'all. And I want to thank them so much for the work that they did. And I see us all scattered around, but we were together on this. And to them, it meant a lot to be able to do this, because this is the first time. I've been on the council 26, 27 years. I have never had a chance to do this. Never have had a chance to put a Hispanic name on a street, on a park, or anything. So to me, this was really an awesome and thrilling project for me personally as a city council member, as a Hispanic council member, to be able to do this, especially in my district. And had it not been that Baylor decided to go further down, we wouldn't have had a chance to do this. So we jumped on board, and thanks to Jonathan and Clint to help us along, to my task force. I'm getting emotional now, but it was a fun project, and a project that I'll long remember. We're not done yet. We're not done yet. I understand we're not done yet with all the namings of different, but we brought back a lot of families and memories of families that we've never been able to recognize. We have recognized some of them at our museum, but not all of them. But with all the people getting together, it brought back a lot of memories, and so much work that was done by the Hispanic culture that was never and has never been recognized. But now we have a chance to do that. I want to thank the council members, Bradley, Jonathan, and Clint, for allowing us and letting us and have this opportunity. And on behalf of the Hispanic community, I want to thank the city council members, everybody else that was part of this group. And we're not done yet, though. We still have a couple of more meetings we have to do. But Isabel, Elaine, I see John. I don't see Lewis. Is Lewis here?
I don't see Lewis.
If y'all will stand up and let us clap for y'all. Thank you.
I hate to follow that, Alice. That was a great oratory there. But let's all go around. Josh.
I will also extend my gratitude for the task force and their good work. And hearing our beloved council member Rodriguez speak on the historic nature of this is very moving to me, just serving on council, to be able to be part of this, to acknowledge and celebrate the rich cultural history that Hispanic Wacoans have woven and have stood up for so long, that has been unacknowledged. So I think this is exciting for us as a city and as a council to be able to participate in this work. And I'd be remiss not to acknowledge Bradley taking advantage, our city manager Bradley Ford, taking advantage of this generational opportunity of having this land in the heart of Waco and being able to use it for a purpose such as this. Not only residential development, but also this truly amazing gem of a park that we have planned here. that honors the Hispanic heritage, but also those with different abilities being able to participate, and it being in the heart of the city in this way is just amazing. And I think it's so exciting to be able to participate in this work. So big acknowledgement to our city manager, to our parks director. Jonathan, thank you for all your good work on this. Clint, thank you for all your good work on facilitating this as well. I think this is no small feat, and to hear our Councilmember Rodriguez talk about it in this way is very convicting and very convincing that this is good work, and I'm glad we can be on a council to be able to do this. And so thanks to staff for recognizing that as well.
Thank you, Josh.
Couldn't fit Alicia on the sign, huh? Had to stick with Alice. No, I'm, as has been said, I'm honored to be a part of the council that is able to put their hands on this and help to shape this generational park that we have going in here. As is widely noted, I have a very young daughter, and I'm really excited to take her here to play, at some point soon after its completion. I would be remiss not to acknowledge just the dedication not only to the city of Waco, but to the Hispanic population of the city of Waco of Councilwoman Rodriguez for the amount of time that you've been here. It's basically the amount of time I've been alive.
Don't say that.
But I say that to voice and hopefully show how long you've been at this work, and it's widely noted. It's well underpaid work. It is work that is getting you a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, a lot of text, and a lot of difficult decisions to make that help shape the future of our city. And I'm really grateful that you're someone who has been here for all of it, and that I get to serve on council alongside and learn from and hear from the history of our city, the history of how things got to where they are today, and to have this opportunity today to move forward on a park and on a project like this. I know it's got to be really special for you, having been here for the whole time and seeing Waco change and grow, but being able to hold on to such a big piece of the history for the Hispanic community in District 2. So proud to serve with you, and really excited to be a part of this.
Thank you. It started off with the inclusive park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It started off with that, and it just grew from there. But it was originally just an inclusive park for our challenged kids and adults to be able to come to a park that they could enjoy instead of having to drive to another town and enjoy it over there. Now they're going to have a park here in Waco alongside our beautiful cultural park that we're designing, and hopefully it'll come to fruition. Bradley, thank you for including us in the budget this year. When I saw it, I went, yay. Only 5 years, but yay. It was worth waiting for. And like I said, it started with the inclusive parks. And so we don't need to forget that part as well. That people from all over that can't go to a regular park because all the facilities and swings and slides are for average kids. Now we have an inclusive park. We're going to have an inclusive park where they can go and enjoy. And the bathrooms, thank you, Clint and Jonathan, for that, where they can go and the parents can go in private and change the kids if they have to. So that was very meaningful as well. So thank you for that. But I'm excited. I'm really excited because this is the first time in my district that I've ever been able to do something like this. I'm glad I held on, guys.
I mean, there's not much more to add. I mean, you know how I feel about.
We didn't have Alice's mic on here. Can you repeat all that?
Thank you.
I mean, there's not much more to add. I mean, the impact that you've had on this community is immeasurable, and the drive and dedication and commitment that it was to making this park happen, because I had just got on council and we started, well, when I first heard you mention the inclusive park, you know, we've taken a very different, very proactive direction as a city as a whole. But I think those conversations happen, and the reason that you've got completely accessible restrooms in the zoo, the new exhibit at the zoo, and the new facilities that we build were because of the conversations that you started about inclusivity and the challenges of that part of our community. So you standing up and being insistent on, see how I fixed that?
Very well.
For a champion for those in our community that need a little bit more assistance has changed the way we do our business. So that you, I mean, it's new building in dirt turning in District 2.
Get it,
And it's been a long time coming for that.
yes.
And I'm proud of everything that we've seen. We do have still work to do, so, you know, you all got to stay dedicated to the pace. But I think everything that epitomizes what your legacy is and has been will be displayed in this facility.
Thank you. And Bradley, I forgot one of our main people from the city of Waco that helped us, Sean Sutcliffe.
Can't leave
He
Sean
did
out.
a lot of our research, so we put a lot of heavy stuff on him, but he was there at all our meetings with information and did a lot of our research for us. So he's part of our task force committee and a very valuable one, so I don't want to forget him. I want to say his name. Although he's very shy and he doesn't like for me to do this, Sean Sutcliffe, thank you.
We'll, I see you, Roberto, in the audience. We'll be sure and get those comments over to Sean, so he's recognized, council member.
Thank you.
I know he really enjoys this work. He enjoyed it at the East Waco Library, South Waco Library. He's a champion of history, and so.
He is.
I'll just close out here by saying, yeah, great presentation.
Mayor.
Oh, no, George.
Oh, I was just going to say, I don't have anything to add, but I would like to say that I agree wholeheartedly with what my fellow council members have said. It's just fantastic, and I'd like to thank the committee members and city staff for all the work you put into it.
It's a great project and great presentation, Jonathan and Clint. I mean, it's kind of two parts here, right? The great park that we've got here. And this is, as we've mentioned, an all-inclusive park, a regional park. I believe it's the largest investment we've ever made in the history of the city on this kind of park. So I'm excited about it. And I know Johnny Montez back there, a lot of energy behind that all-inclusiveness park, and it's personal. And I appreciate you kind of keeping us on track there. It's going to complement that new housing development there too, just the whole area. And this goes back as we talked about the history of that, of the whole location and the Baylor history and trading it out, and the evolution and the genesis of this project is pretty impressive. 30 acres, $25 million here. A pavilion, water features, a bridge, trails, restrooms. It's going to connect to that ball field and that track. It's just it'll have so many amenities. Real exciting. The pictures are just tremendous. And then we pivot into, Clint, you're part of it, just the cultural celebration we've got here. Is just, it's heartwarming and exciting in this historically Hispanic neighborhood. And we've been very intentional with your leadership, Alicia, on thinking through those, because even downtown, we're talking about Sandtown, we're talking about Calle Dos and La Pilla, and the St. Francis deal, and what you've done at the museum. It's just, we're being very intentional about this as why we went through this process in the first place, and why you set up a great process of naming the park and the trail and some of the park amenities. And again, we're just on the front end of moving through this. And I see Isabel Lozano and Elaine Boteo. Thank you so much for leading that. And John Montez, everybody on that committee, and Luis Garcia. And I just want to echo what you said about Vidal de Leon. At the Mutualista meeting a couple of months ago, we were there. And he was going on about the history of the Hispanic heritage and history in the city of Waco. I could have listened to him all night. They told me he had to wrap it up, but I could have sat there and listened to Mr. De Leon all night. So if you had his input, you were getting a lot of great information. And again, we were at it's Hispanic Heritage Month, so it's kind of good that we kicking that off and talking about this now. Was at the HLN, the Hispanic Leadership Network, Elaine, that you put together. That luncheon Friday was there. Just, it's so refreshing to see the energy. There are great turnouts at all these meetings that you're heading up. So just, again, appreciate the planning around this park, the attaching it to the Hispanic heritage, and thank you also to the Historic Landmark Preservation Commission for their kind of vetting and making sure this is all well done. And I'm so excited, Alicia, about this park, you know, and
I am
you've been, your commitment to public service in this city council has been fantastic. We'll have a whole celebration about that later. I'm sure I'm going to start crying, but.
I'm already crying.
But anyway, you were on council when you appointed me to this council, and so I appreciate your friendship and your leadership here on this council during my time. So anyway, great job, guys, and I know first steps, a lot of pictures and a lot of commitment, but thanks for all the work for getting all this grounded. It looks like we've got a great future for this park. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thanks, Jonathan Clint. Next item is work session 2024-699, City Manager Ford.
Session is 699, discussion of downtown redevelopment project and the progress being made. We made a commitment at our last presentation to come to council every 2 months with a project update. And so this is, it's been, believe it or not, it's been 2 months since we've been in front of you. So I want to bring Tom Bach forward, our Director of Strategic Initiatives, to provide an update on this project. Similar to our first work session, we don't have any associated action on tonight's agenda, but look forward to Tom's report.
Thank you, City Manager Ford. Thank you, Mayor and Council. It's my pleasure to be here. Tom Balk, Director of Strategic Initiatives, talking about a very exciting project. And yes, it's hard to believe it's already been 2 months since we moved into a critical first stage of development. Hang on, there we go. So the overview here really is just to capture what's gone on since Phase 1A design services were authorized in July. Just a quick recap, we know that in March, Hunt Development Group was selected as our master developer over this 100-acre area centered on City Hall and fronting the Brazos River. They quickly developed a strategic roadmap, which was crucially adopted in June, leading into this Phase 1A and defines what we're working on. And those pre-development services have kicked off now. So the update here is really going to follow this flow. Some project information and website information to highlight how people can find out more about the project, covering some of our public engagement to date, and talking about a key tool that we're working on with form-based code development, and then also, as we've talked about a lot, the design and permitting progress. Where do we stand in that schedule? And so with that, just some quick highlights here. We were happy to launch the new website that's project-focused in August. And a quick shout out to Monica and her team in marketing and communications to make this seamlessly integrated, working closely with the Hunt team to, we have an independent website, but still has true to Waco. It looks and feels like us, and it integrates nicely with our homepage. So the top image there just captures, if all you know is how to find waco-texas.com, you can find our button there on the right. And then the project webpage itself is wacodowntownredevelopment.com. And that'll stay active throughout the life of the project. So it may be an antique website by the time we get to the end of this. We may need some other outreach devices in 20 years, but we've started. Outreach and engagement has also included a number of stakeholder meetings and public info sessions. We kind of had a double whammy on the 27th. We met with the Plan Commission to make a big introduction of our form-based code team. But also we hosted a public info session at the convention center to just talk about the project overall. We know there's a lot of interest and a lot of questions about it, so we wanted to make all the imagery available up close and in larger format than just reading through the 8.5 by 11 strategic plan. But we've also been getting out into the community to meet with, starting with a lot of our project neighbors. We know that the Barron's Branch improvements have generated a lot of questions, and so we want to make ourselves available to support those conversations. A little bit of focus on the form-based code discussion here. So this is kind of a tool that some of y'all may not be entirely familiar with because it's a little different than what we've done in the past. We've got zoning ordinances that we rely upon heavily to govern development throughout Waco and including our downtown. But there's a tool called form-based code that helps make that a little more inclusive and remove some barriers to entry, essentially. So form-based code touches on a lot of the same typical elements, and there's a little bit of a trick because I don't expect you to read the imagery on the right. We're trying to make all of those standard elements moving from a very legalistic sort of description into a much more user-friendly graphic sort of guide. And this is helpful for not just developers that we're trying to encourage to take part in investing in Waco, but also it makes it a lot easier for our team to administrate because these new tools work in tandem and seamlessly with our very legalistic ordinances. You have to have tight legal language, but you also have to have a very comprehensive guide. And so just kind of for illustration purposes on the lower left there, we have a developer guide. We want to make that more robust with great illustrations and great information about how block by block we want to promote good use. We don't want to restrict out use. We want to promote the use, the look and feel, and the type of development that's going to make downtown Waco great, moving into that inspirational image on the right. And so with that, we've hired, and this is keeping true to what Hunt has talked about with us over and over again, is bringing the right people to the table for every piece of the puzzle. So Clarion Associates, great firm out of Denver, well known for their work on form-based code, working within the existing framework of a community's code of ordinances. So we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We're starting where we are. We're researching the overlapping. We've got districts and overlays and zoning that all need to be triangulated here to be incrementally revised, improved, so that by fall we have a comprehensive guide for everyone. And that's going to be really crucial as we're moving into what should be the construction phase of utilities and streets in Phase 1A. That'll also be a great moment to kick off in a large way the recruitment for developers for vertical construction in that area. So moving into Phase 1A design and permitting, that's where we've spent a lot of our focus as of late. I think it's really helpful, and we're going to continue to do this through the life of the project. We've got a series of phases. We've got a lot of geography that we're covering. So these three images, I think, are helpful in just kind of keeping us grounded for a moment. The one on the left obviously just gives us streets to reference. The red box is where Phase 1A is, and so it's largely bound by 4th Street to the river between Jefferson and Washington. And inside of that, the middle image kind of helps us picture what's there currently. We've got a track, we've got the Elevate student housing, and the Courtyard Marriott kind of in this, what is described as the Barron's Branch district. Now, Phase 1A doesn't include every inch of that, but predominantly when we talk about Phase 1A, we're talking about creating that Barron's Branch district. And so in the image on the right, it represents what that will look like upon build out. So it's the first phase of 4. It's about 33 acres. Describe where it is and the district it corresponds with. And so that helps us kind of pivot into what is Phase 1A really trying to accomplish. So there are some fundamentals, some nuts and bolts that we spent a lot of time talking about previously, and their importance hasn't diminished. The floodplain permitting and mitigation, it affects more than 16 acres of that 33 acres. We've got a reasonable graphic on the left there that reminds us where all that floodplain is. And it doesn't just affect our project area, but our neighbors upstream as well. So improvements there are going to be very vital to opening this district for development, but also helping existing developments upstream. And then utility replacement and capacity building. also very fundamental to starting the entire project. We need to build capacity downtown to support the growth that we want to see. And this is a crucial spot to draw utilities from Riverside and elsewhere, allowing replacement and upsizing because several items are reaching end of life. There's also lead fittings and things like that that are already on our priority matrix to resolve. So it's a helpful place to begin the project, checking boxes on long-standing initiatives. Parks and streets are going to be key placemaking elements in social infrastructure that also speak the language of what was developed through that 2023 downtown implementation plan. I know many of our downtown constituents, many of our residents, and many of y'all participated heavily in that document. And what's great about the strategic plan is that it thoughtfully builds upon that work. The streets and the social infrastructure make sure that we have good connectivity into where we already have concentrated celebrations and foot traffic. We want to expand that capacity. And then ultimately, it prepares an additional 9 sites that haven't been available for more than a generation. It prepares 9 sites for compatible private investment. So really thinking about private investment as one of the tools that's going to help us build out the vision that Wacoans want to see. So it's not all being built by the city of Waco. We're clearing the hurdles and the snags so that the private sector can come with us. And so that initial 12 months that we've talked about 2 months ago now, we have a series of priorities that revolve around getting the survey and investigative results that we need, including the survey, the utility locates, and geotech testing. Also a lot more work on that floodplain modeling to make sure that we're prepared to update that correctly. But then we've also been immersed in the schematic design phase. And so for this project, that's expected to take about 3 months. And that'll move us into the next phase, which will be design development, another 3 months leading into construction documents. So these milestones help us kind of track when can you expect to see key updates to the design. So right now, schematic design is really about locking in on the horizontal alignments. We knew generally the master plan layout of everything, but we need to tie that to our survey and the floodplain model and make sure that we've got building sites, building pads, streets laid out in the correct locations that also make sense with our utility needs. So it's kind of in the weeds right now in terms of that. It's not the real glamorous imagery updates, but it is very crucial to make sure that the next picture we show you has a strong fidelity to what we're prepared to build. So we're approaching the end of schematic design. We're making good headway to prepare those FEMA and Army Corps of Engineer permits. And then also this helpfully works in tandem with the development of that form-based code. Let's see. And so this is a cleaned up version of the same schedule you saw previously. I've added a little bit of information to reflect those phases of design and help differentiate one key thing here. So we've talked about streets and utilities. That's the 12-month time frame to get us to a point where we can begin bidding in June. The park design is scheduled to take place in tandem with that. We really want to make sure we're hitting our targets to maintain fidelity to that budget number that we previously reported, $167 million all in for this phase. By stacking the park design in this way, it helps us make sure that we can calibrate once we have the bid results for the utilities and streets. So that's one point of nuance that maybe I didn't spend enough time on in the last presentation, but I want to be clear about here. 12 months gets us through streets and utilities and about 60% of the way through park design. So with that, it kind of lays it all out there. It talks about our meetings as well. We're here in September for our council update. Next month, we'll be making several visits out in the community, including we hope to be at the 100-year anniversary for St. Francis. We know that audience will be very interested to hear what's on the horizon. But yeah, we have public info sessions and public outreach that will all be promoted through our website and in tandem with city social media. So in summary, this is just a light touch, a quick project update. We've talked about several of the topics that were in the outline, and I'd be happy to address any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Bonk? Comments?
Hey, Tom, could you take just a second and give a little bit more of a high-level overview of the benefit of creating and utilizing form-based code in terms of placemaking and sort of cultural table setting for this area of downtown as we move forward?
Absolutely. It's exceptionally crucial in this portion of downtown for maybe two reasons. This is maybe our most culturally rich portion of town. There's a lot of overlapping stories here, and some really powerful stories, including Calle Dos in terms of it still lives within living memory, and that is a rare and precious thing. So that we want to recapture the strength and meaning of some of these places before they're completely gone, but we are working, it's an uphill battle in terms of urban renewal cleared away a lot of the fabric that we would work with. And so it's very important to have some strong visual tools that as carefully as possible define what the look and feel and function should be like, the spacing of things to allow that character to come back without being so heavy-handed that it's like Disney World where we're trying to recreate this thing that no longer exists. So we're not going to replicate elements that are lost. However, we want to pay homage to them moving forward, and we want to do it in a thoughtful way that draws people in as much as possible. So thinking about the strength of our historic communities, but in a way that can offer them a 2.0 that's even stronger.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions for Tom? I'll just say thanks, Tom, for the update. I know that we asked you to, on a quarterly basis or every other month or so, just kind of come in and let us know where we're at, and you have the requisite amount of Gantt charts and maps in there that I love. So thank you. You were the right man for the job here, definitely. You and Pacina. Is Jeremy here today? He put some of this stuff together too, I know. Anyway, this is an exciting project, the downtown development project. A lot of excitement in the community, a lot of excitement in the developer community as well. When we're talking about a Riverwalk, park space, celebrating some of our heritage also with the La Pila and the promenade that's going to be there, and the Calle Dos and all the different things going on. They're very exciting. But not to forget about, these are going to be commercial pad sites that I think will be very attractive to investors. And at the same time, we're taking care of a drainage issue and a floodplain issue that's been there for, I guess, since the beginning of time. So to me, we're solving so many problems and so many issues here. The opportunities are fantastic. So yeah, the update, form-based code, technical design services, and the public outreach. And that's what I want people to take away from this too. We're still trying to get input, everybody's input on what this should be and what this should look like. So I appreciate that communication element, but great update. Appreciate it, Tom.
Thank you.
The next item is work session 2024-700, the discussion of Waco Convention Center operational model. City Manager Ford.
This presentation, we're going to be joined by Lisa Blackman, Assistant City Manager, as well as Missy Wachowski, our Director of Human Resources. And they'll be giving an update on Waco Convention Center and the operational model as we look to transition to private operations there at the Convention Center. And if you recall, as part of this transition, we've been really intentional. I would call it a people-first approach, meaning our city staff first approach. And Missy and Lisa will speak to that a little bit as they talk about the employee success team and how we've worked on behalf of our current Convention Center employees to expose them to opportunities in other departments, and hopefully keep them as city employees. And they'll actually share some numbers with you. So I'm excited for this presentation because I think it says a lot, similar to our other presentations, about what type of culture of the organization we're trying to further. So Missy and Lisa, y'all go ahead.
Thank you, Bradley. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to provide you an update with where we are with the Waco Convention Center operational model. We're going to review the purpose of why we're here today, kind of look back in time at the background that the Convention Center has lived, the life that it's lived, look at our current project status, the request for proposals, and our employees, which Bradley just mentioned. We'll recap with a summary, and then we'll look at next steps. So for the purpose, back in May of this year, during the council budget retreat, we provided a presentation on the Waco Convention Center operational model, and we committed to returning to you to provide an update on the process and review our recommendations. The goal has been to always explore a private management model for the convention center while maintaining Visitors Bureau under public managed governance, which both align with the goal of maximizing the operational efficiency, increasing revenues, and enhancing the national profile of the center. There's lots of reasons why we're doing this, and just to highlight a few, we all are aware that convention centers are huge economic impact generators for our community, and they require a great deal of flexibility in the competitive industry. Our current convention center operates at about a 40% capacity year over year since 2014, and the standard is 70%. Private management models allow for maximizing revenues, reducing expenses, and remaining nimble within the market. Through those things, it's high purchasing power, opportunity costs, and national corporate partnerships. The connections that a private management company would have to the national industry and the landscape, they have a key pulse on the way the trends are moving in the industry, and they have an opportunity to improve the image of our center within that industry. We also will ensure a balance of non-local booking requirements while maintaining local use. And we'll get into this in the background, but the previous study identified a need to increase our food and beverage program opportunity, and that has struggled over the last 7 years. So the background. So the convention center opened in January of 1972, and the CVB was established in 1983. The current operating model is a public managed governance model. In 2017, the city hired JLL to explore the operational effectiveness and review the governance models of both. In August of 2017, JLL delivered the final report recommending the convention center and the CVB both transition to an independent nonprofit authority. The city then decided to pause on that recommended transition, and then we resumed the conversation in 2022 after COVID. And that consisted of pretty much research and understanding what other communities have done in this same situation. And then again on May 8th, which we just touched on, we presented to council during your budget retreat, focusing on the operational model review, industry benchmarks, and the following recommendations. So we recommended to launch the request for proposals for a private management of the convention center, and we recommended to maintain the Visitors Bureau portion in-house. So with the launch of the RFP, we promised to explore the proposals and potentially select a preferred vendor, and then begin to develop and negotiate a qualified management contract for your review. Under the CVB in-house, we decided to explore merging tourism and economic development, which is much like the state model, to have both of those functions within the same department, and then to rebrand the CVB to a destination management organization. And then again, between May of this year and today, we have been communicating with staff, which we did immediately following the meeting. Actually, the day before the city council retreat, we communicated with staff. We launched the employee success team, and then we launched and completed the RFP process. So where we are today, we are currently under contract negotiations with the top proposer from the RFP process. The contract is tentatively scheduled for your next city council meeting on October 1st. We're really working hard to make that date work. The employee success team, which Missy will speak to in greater detail, has been actively working with staff. Transitioning the Visitor Bureau functions into Economic Development Department, we've been working on that, working down that path, forming the Department of Economic Development and rebranding that CVB to the DMO. Project status. So we launched the RFP on May 16th of this year, and it was open for 4 weeks. As a result of that process, 4 submissions were received on June 14th. And the scoring team consisted of members from the city manager's office, finance, economic development, human resources, and the Waco Convention Center. The top 2 scoring firms were both interviewed on August 8th. And based on that RFP and interview scoring, we picked a preferred vendor, and we've been negotiating ever since. Now I'm going to pass it over to Missy to talk about the employee success.
Thank you, Lisa. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So as you can imagine, a project like this can cause worry among our employees. So one of the very first things we did is establish what we're calling the employee success team that had representation from HR, the actual department, the convention center, and a liaison with the city manager's office. And the sole goal of this team was to help the employees through this transition period, to make sure we were transparent and they knew who to go to if they had questions. There are multiple rounds of one-on-one meetings with all the employees, and the success team would schedule and is still scheduling office hours at the convention center so employees can just walk up and meet with them or actually schedule time to meet with them. And also this team is available via email or phone call even outside of these scheduled hours that they have at the convention center. In addition to these one-on-one meetings, we're also having monthly luncheons with our employees to communicate the project status, where we are, what's next, and city manager's office, HR are at these luncheons, and we're able to engage and answer questions. So there are 12 of our employees directly affected by this possible transition. The success team has had 30+ individual meetings with these team members, and the options that they have been discussing with our employees is, one, anybody interested in staying with the city, let's explore opportunities in other departments. And it's not a surprise, most of our employees have a strong desire to stay with the city. The second option is, if we do decide to transition to a private management firm, to explore options with the firm if they're interested in that, but that option's not been explored yet since we're still at this stage of the process. The other initiative that we launched with our 12 employees is a retention incentive, because we definitely want them to stay with us throughout this transition period. So the retention incentives are tied to 2 key milestones. The 2 key milestones, the first one would be if we execute a contract, that would be the first key milestone, and the second is the actual transition of operations. Right now, 11 of our 12 employees have a transition plan in place if we choose to move forward. So, and we're still actively working with one employee to identify a pathway forward. We do feel with the employee success team that we've developed a good protocol to use if we decide to explore this in another area of our business or operation or another department. It has the right mix of support for our employees. I want to give a shout out to our departments. They have really engaged and been supportive throughout this process. Every time we said, hey, can you hold that job vacancy? Hey, would you be willing to let someone come out and job shadow? They have said yes. Departments have hosted over 12 job shadowing opportunities for our employees at the convention center. And we have had our last meeting with the team at the convention center on Friday, and they even expressed how patient departments have been with them and how appreciative they have been as they've come out and asked questions and explored different opportunities. I also want to give a shout out to our awesome team at the convention center. A process like this doesn't work unless employees engage and accept the support and walk through the experience with us. And they have been phenomenal throughout this process, and they have really embraced the opportunity. Several have said that they're excited to explore new career opportunities, and they're looking forward, to whatever the next step the city decides to take. Talking a little bit about economic development, we've got a phased transition planned of transitioning from economic development to economic development and tourism department. This is the department led by Danny Chavez, our Chief Economic Development Officer. Our current director at the convention center and CVB, last day with the city is September 30th, so all that group will transition under Danny's leadership, and the rebranding of the CVB to DMO is forthcoming.
Missy. Okay, so in summary, staff will continue to recommend a private management model for the Waco Convention Center, as well as continue to recommend maintaining the Visitors Bureau in-house and creating the Office of Economic Development and Tourism, again, consistent with the state of Texas model. Our goal is to continue to maximize operational efficiency, increase revenue, and enhance our profile. And during contract negotiations, continue to keep employees and local use of the building at the top of our negotiations. So our next steps, we're looking to have the contract finalized hopefully next week with the vendor and tentatively scheduled for City Council consideration on October 1st. If the contract is approved by Council, we would consider October and November as our transition period, and then December, the transition would be complete. And we're here for any questions if you have any.
Any questions or comments for Lisa and Missy?
Just glad that you all gave the opportunity for the current convention center employees to look out and see where they wanted to go, if they wanted to go. So thank you for that. I know that means a lot to our employees in the city of Waco, that we really look out for them. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I'll just second that and say that taking a people-first approach with these instances where we're looking to privatize something that has been city-operated for so long and doing it really well this time. It seems like, is it that 11 out of the 12 have chosen? And so, I think this provides a really great functional model going forward if and when we make decisions to privatize any other aspect of the city operations. That gives us real momentum to stand on and good best practices of how to engage employees and make sure that they're cared for and thought of. Because if it comes down to taking care of even just a dozen employees versus the city having to maintain operations of any one department for another year, everyone knows in municipal government, our vision and scope is much longer than that. So, I think we'd much rather take care of the employees on the front end. So really appreciate that. Very excited to bring this under economic development, to bring in the private operator. I understand that, that there are things that we miss out on just from not being associated or affiliated with, sort of their portfolio. When people call, they just call operator number one or operator number two and say, hey, do you have anything in Texas? And they're able to, so, we've got X, Y, and Z that can fit your needs. So I'm really excited to sort of get on that circuit as well. And I've said this before, I said it at a budget retreat, but with the city of Austin recently shutting down their convention center, I'm really excited to be able to catch as much of that as we possibly can and really optimize our operations there as is. So very exciting times, really excited that our staff there is going to largely be able just to stick around with the new operator and see a lot of success there. So thank you guys for putting this together and being really thoughtful with it.
Thank you. Lisa, thanks, Missy, for the presentation. It is no secret that the industry standard is to lean more towards the privatization of the convention center part. In addition to us keeping our visitors portion in-house is important to me, just because we have done such a time-intensive, long-suffering kind of exercise in cultivating our brand. I don't think anybody can tell our story better than we can. And so I wholeheartedly agree that our visitor experience needs to be genuinely given by us as a city. Now, with that being said, I think that it is with you all having the full understanding of our desires to make sure that our staff was first and foremost the priority in this process. I am excited to see what this will mean for our community and our city, different opportunities that will come simply because this happens. As we are, in the discussion about how we redevelop our downtown and our community, our convention center is our calling card. A lot of times in the past, and we've looked at the opportunities that may have passed Waco, was because there were not the amenities for it or the space for it, or you're battling, if the convention center has this, from a large scale perspective, then our local community is stuck without having a venue to do our smaller, more intimate family-leaning events. But now I think we are at a position that all of those things can happen in tandem. And I think that when we approached, well, not we, me, but council approached the privatization in 2016, it just wasn't time. And I think that we had to go through and do some things for us to build up our volume before it could really be improved to leverage the success we think it will. I think that time is now, so I'm grateful for staff for walking through this process again. A lot of some people are still the same, but a lot of people are new, so maybe it wasn't as painstaking as it could have been. But I think that this is the time to do those things, and I appreciate everything that was put into this process. My only question is, if I remember on your timeline, it says the transition, is 1 month? Or is it 2? So, okay, got it. So October to December. Okay.
And
And that can
typically-
happen that quickly?
So we talked a great deal about this during the RFP interviews, and typically these larger firms, they have resources to bring in-house immediately to just work here for however many months they need to until
Okay.
they're right-sized and whatnot. So they come equipped with lots of resources.
Okay. Because I was like, that's, somebody mentioned municipal time, and I was like, that's not municipal time.
Yeah, we're working on private time.
We're changing things.
It does make a difference. All right, thank you so much.
Thanks. Director Pucciofsky, I really appreciate your thoughtful transition plan here. I mean, you have to be intentional and sensitive. Employees are our most valuable asset here with the city. So runway you've provided, support and opportunities, you've handled that beautifully. Assistant City Manager Blackman, as we go into this private management model, I'm excited about, as Mayor Pro Tem Ewing said, you find out best practices in the industry, you find out what the competition's doing, you kind of plug into a national sort of look when you get the private management model, when it's run right, and hopefully we're going to be picking the right group here, but a little bit of flexibility, you get some efficiencies, and hopefully some incentives to build success here in the CVB area. So October 1st, it looks like is the next big date that we'll be looking at this thing again. So great work, both of y'all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We will now move to the next item, work session 2024-701, discussion of development services efficiency study. City Manager Ford.
Sure. Our next presentation, bringing Clint back, our Director of Development Services, to provide an update on the work that his team has been doing in development services, on customer services improvements. This is kind of an outgrowth of a study that was done recently, and so what you'll hear today is some of the important implementation pieces that I think Clint's excited to share that are starting to make inroads and bring champions to the development process and improve our customer service. So I know he's excited to give you that briefing, as well as I think he's going to introduce an update on a future update that's going to happen relative to our building and electrical codes in the near future. So Clint, you got the mic.
Thank you, Bradley and Mayor, Council. As Bradley mentioned, we do want to go over some of the projects we've been working on to improve our development process. And so we're going to talk a little bit about some of the recent permitting trends for 2024, do an overview of the study that we just finished earlier this year, give an update on all the improvement efforts, and then talk about the process for updating our building codes. So 2024 development trends, mixed bag. It's very similar to the way our economy is going in the budget. We're kind of all over the place with permitting. That construction, new construction, commercial is up about 30% as a number of permits. But the valuation, even though we're over $500 million in evaluation, which is really good, we are down a little bit from last year, mainly from the graphic packaging project that was permitted last year really drove our number up last year, but we're still doing good from valuation standpoint. Residential new construction is up slightly from last year, but you can see on that top chart, this actually goes all the way back to 2000. Our big 3 years during that time period were 2020 through 2022, and then we've dipped down in 2023, and then a little slight uptick again in 24. That you can kind of follow that chart, and it really follows the economy. You can see the downturn in the late 2000s, and then the increase up there, and then with the interest rates going up the last 2 years, we've come back a little bit, but again, that's trending back up, so that's a good thing. Overall, we're pretty steady on the number of permits that we're issuing and the development that's happening in the city. Here's a map of all, this is all new single-family construction, including the remodels, and you can just see where they're distributed across the city. Again, a lot of the new constructions on the edges, and, where we have greenfield development. But you see a lot of green dots in the core, which is a good sign that we're having development occurring all throughout our city. If you'd have done this map 10 years ago, there wouldn't be hardly any dots in the core of the city. But you see a lot of green dots, a lot of, and these are new construction, single family in East Waco, North Waco, and even some South Waco. So, and then the red you see is remodel permits, which has actually been up over the last year. A lot of residential remodels happening throughout the city. Some of our key performance indicators that we strive and try to meet from a efficiency standpoint are these. We're not at where we want to be on some of those, but we are seeing improvements in all three indicators from 2023 to 2024. And I did kind of want to go through each one of these individually to dive a little deeper. So the first one is percentage of inspections conducted within 1 business day of the request. So we have a deadline of 4 o'clock. If you get your request in for inspection, our goal is to have 98% of those requests inspected the next day. We're about 10% below our goal. And part of that is staffing levels and just workload. And you'll see in some of our improvement efforts, we're trying to address some of those that we'll go through. But just for perspective, on an average day in this last month, August, we get about 126 requests for inspections a day. And right now we have 7 inspectors. We have 2 open positions, so fully staffed, we'll have 9. And actually those 2 open positions are filled, and we'll have those new employees starting later in September. But if you do the math on that, it's about 17 inspections per inspector a day, which is a hard number to get to with as big a cities we have, and some of the complicated inspection projects that we have going on. For example, a mixed-use building or a graphic packaging. Inspector could spend several hours at one of those one inspection. So. We're at 88%, our goal is 98%, and part of what we'll get into is to try to get that goal up. Other indicators are the residential plan review, and we've shifted this a little bit. It was originally 2 days, the permit being issued within 2 days at submittal. We've shifted that indicator up to 5 days, and we're still trying to fine tune that, but we are having, since our residential design standards were adopted back in late 21, early 22, we're having quite a bit more resubmittals, and that's causing that permit timeline to creep up a little bit. So we did shift that to 5 days. We might look at changing this one and be this indicator more to when the comments are submitted and not when the permit's issued, to account for that back and forth. Also, we'll be working on some more educational opportunities to try to get those residential design guidelines addressed with the first submittal, so we're not having to do resubmittals and back and forth.
Clint, on this page, trying to kind of just read the numbers, these all apply to both residential and commercial inspections. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Right?
So yeah, so the one on the left, or my left, is for residential. So that's that 95% target for actually having the permit issued within. Right now we're doing 5 days, but as you can see, we've gone up quite a bit from last year, from 41% to 89%. And then on the right side, that bottom right side is commercial plan review comments sent out within 20 days is our goal. And we are improving. We're still not where we want to be. Actually, our average day is 19 days to get comments back, but we're not getting to the 90% of projects. So there's some of those that are going over those 20 days, but average, we're below that 20 days. So we're seeing improvement in that. And again, with some of these programs that we're putting in place, we want to see all these get up to our goals, within the near future.
And top right chart is both commercial and residential inspections, just
All inspections are
Okay.
together. Yes, sir.
And so would you say that dip, do you think that related to the volume of requests as we kind of saw a development boom coming out of COVID in all of these factors? Because there's kind of a dip and then a surge, kind of getting near where we were, but.
I think it's it's workload. Again, it's staffing, and then some of the complexity of the projects that we're working on are not quite as simple as they were in the past with mixed-use buildings and redevelopment, large industrial. Some of those inspections are taking longer to do, so I think all that. But again, we're kind of trending back the right way, and then we're hoping that some of these efforts will improve those as well.
Okay, thanks so much.
So go over the study that we just completed, the Development Service Efficiency Study that MGT did for us. They spent about 3 months doing a review, pretty deep dive. They surveyed stakeholders, interviewed not only department staff, but external stakeholders and staff within other city departments. They reviewed all our permit data on timeliness and permit issuance, compared us to peer cities, looked at our citizen self-service, which is our permitting system, and then reviewed some of our documentation procedures on how we do things with our processes. Stakeholder groups are included, so they did both surveys and then interview groups. I believe there was over 2,500 different people that were sent the surveys, and then we did interview stakeholder groups, including Heart of Texas Builders Association had a group, and they might have had actually 2 groups. We had to split them in 2 groups. Our Syntex Association of General Contractors and the trade contractors met with them. We had 2 engineering firms meet with them, one from in town and then one from out of town. Several developers, our city management, and I believe several of the council members met with them. We had our Waco Regional Real Estate Association group meet with them, and then all of our development staff members, from our permit techs to our plan reviewers to our planners, inspectors, and supervisors, all met with them individually to give them honest and frank input on our processes. And some of their findings is, I think there was a pretty common thread that we have good people in these positions and that want to do a good job, hardworking, know their jobs, very professional. There's a sentiment from the external stakeholders that our process is simpler, easier than several other communities they work in, especially larger cities. But there's some work we need to do, especially with our technology to help streamline processes, increase accessibility, and having more data-driven decision-making. And then standardizing our processes, where it be checklists, standing operating procedures, but really working on consistency throughout our staff. So if we have turnover or different inspectors or different plan reviewers, there's a simple checklist or process that people can follow and know that they'll have a similar outcome and moving forward on permits and processes. So some of the recommendations they provided was related to technology. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But our permitting system needs to be improved. The communication between notification between our customers and staff is something that needs to be improved drastically. there's a lot of gap there between when people submit permits, get comments, resubmit. The communication, the system just lacks that, and so that needs to be improved. Tracking both from internal and external users to see where they are in the process, and that ability to share information with technology back and forth. And then to work on fine-tuning our performance indicators and really track more metrics so we can not only see what's happening, but identify how to improve those. So really working on some analytics to help us do a better job. And then, creation of fact sheets and guides, checklist on our procedures and processes really will help outcomes from both sides. So we've been starting to look at some model cities. McKinney has a really good, City of McKinney has a really good process. They have guidebooks for each process with checklists and what needs to be submitted. It's all on their website. So we're working on that and hope to have that, as one of our improvement projects rolled out in the near future. And then the last one is limit the number of inspections. And that goes back to what I was talking to with our key indicators performed daily by inspectors. This is something we started talking with our stakeholders about. Some cities will just put a cap on it, a daily cap, and once you hit that number, it just automatically gets scheduled to another day. And that's something we can do. I think there's some things we have in process with third-party inspections that we'd like to try to get that number down before, and we need to have some more dialogue with our stakeholders before we put a daily cap. But that is something we need to do, is have the number reduced for the inspectors, just to be able to get them all done in that day, but also provide good customer service where they can spend the time, work with the developers, make sure they understand what the codes require, and having that dialogue and having the time to have that dialogue to be able to have that good customer service. So that's something we're continuing to fine tune and we'll work on the recommendations. So some of the updates on our improvement efforts. We got 4 efforts that we're working on that are either in place or in process I wanted to cover. The first one is actually a resolution that's on your agenda tonight. So it's a new contract with a new permitting system for the company called MaintStar for online portal for permitting, planning and zoning inspections, licensing, and code compliance that will handle all of the permitting and processing for development services, which includes inspections, code compliance, and planning, as well as engineering and health districts. So all our permitting process for a new system. MaintStar is a West Coast company that's got about 35 years experience, but they recently relocated to their headquarters to Dallas. And so we're actually going to be their first Texas client. They've got some others in the pipeline that are similar size to us. So we're excited about their system. We went through a robust proposal process. We had 9 submittals. We had 4 finalists where we did 2-day demos and interviews with them and did a lot of reference checks on them. And MaintStar, I think, was a clear leader in RFP. Their system is robust, but to me, what makes it good is it's simple to use. This from a customer standpoint and a staff standpoint, we need a system that is easy to use, that's customer friendly, that can be adjusted easily, that doesn't take an act of Congress to change a process. And so MaintStar really shines in those elements. So we're excited about it. It is a 3-year agreement, with a lot of money just under $500,000, but it was funded in this year's budget.
If I could interrupt you.
Yeah.
I had a question on how soon we're going to get that implemented, but I guess you have it right.
Yeah,
Is
so
that
here
right?
we go. Here's our schedule. Yeah.
I asked my questions at the right time.
So if council approves that resolution today, we're going to hit the ground running on that. They'll start working. You can see in the background information, the resolution, we had 12 to 18 months, but Mike's been talking with them today, and actually, we think a 13-month schedule is a realistic schedule, and you can kind of see the flow of that. There's a lot of legwork in transferring data over from the existing system, setting up workflows. But by this time next year, we want to have it set up and be testing it and training and everything, so we can go live in about 12, 13 months from now.
And that, do we have an existing system, or are we just migrating from
We have an
spreadsheets?
existing system that is not performing
Got
to
it.
our satisfaction.
So will this have external portals where people can kind of look into where what the?
Yes,
'cause it seems a lot of it is just communication. Where are we in the project, both internally knowing where we are and externally? At
Yes,
least when
and
they can see it and you see the transparency.
they can see it, and also it will allow us to, because right now the system really is just tied to the person that applies for the permit. So usually it's the contractor and the client or the owner doesn't get to see that. So it will allow more people to see, be attached to a permit. So there's
Great.
more transparency there.
Great. Sounds
And
like
is
a good
that
system.
is that on them to input that information? So like if Andrea is building a condo and Andrea has the contractors, and then somebody else and the subs. So when the subs draws the permit, they put that information in that includes me, or what?
It can
Whose
be-
responsibility is that?
Yeah, so it can be done both ways. So it can be entered by the client. As long as we have the contact, we can also attach people to it as well. So when you have subs, and general contractors and owners, if we have the contact information, we can tie those together too, so they can all see it and get the notifications of when things happen. So that's real exciting for what we do, is because that's a big issue right now, is that notification and communication about what actually is happening.
Yeah.
So and then also the reporting on it. They have a really good reporting system that can give you status updates and show you what's happened, whose box it has been in, and if there is issues, where do we need to go to fix that issue.
And this
So-
integration is if at, if we go to whatever number per day of inspections and the inspector has gotten to that number and it kicks to the next day, I mean,
It does, and it has its GIS base, and so it's actually got some interface in it that will help make efficient scheduling, so we're, not going across town. So it helps with that, and then it also, will balance it out, and then if a inspector gets finished earlier and there's some, they'll be able to distribute them too.
so that information will be automatically sent out because it knows what's happening.
It will have that capability. So we're excited about it.
Sounds like a good system.
The other projects we're working on is the virtual inspection software, ViewSpecs. This is up and running now. We did staff training over the last 3 or 4 months, as well as training with the Home Builders Association, our monthly developers group, and then the associated general contractors. That finished up last month, and this is in use right now. And this will integrate into MainStar. Right now, it's a separate system. We're already using it, but it's not integrated it cannot be integrated into our current system, but it will be able to be integrated into MainStar. So we're excited about that. And really, the purpose of this is to try to cut down on having to, especially for re-inspections. So if inspector goes out, does an inspection, then there's some things that need to be corrected. Right now, the contractor has to reschedule that, get back in the queue, the inspector has to go back out, and it might be 3 or 4 things. And that's a lot of time and effort when something, where the contractor can take a video or a picture, it can be geocoded, uploaded to the system, and the inspector can check it on their, workspace or their phone and approve it without having to go back to the site, which that, again, is efficient for everybody. And so we're, we got a list of permits that we're starting off with. Again, a lot of them are resubmittal inspections, but also like roofing or hot water heater. We're going to do some of those, and then we're hoping to expand this system and do more of the initial inspections too. So we'll continue to use this and improve it, but it is up and running and we're using it now. And got a little video that kind of shows how it works.
Now with View Specs, developers can complete certain inspections on any device, anywhere, even on job sites with a limited phone connection. No need to wait for an inspector to visit your job site, and no downloads are required. View Specs is accessible directly through your phone's web browser and built-in GPS. Virtual inspections are tailored to any type of internet connection. You can make a video call for job sites where you have a strong internet connection or connect over chat if your internet connection is limited. Don't have an internet connection? With the View Specs mobile app, you can also work completely offline to take photos and videos and upload them later. Get started at waco-texas.com/virtual inspection.
I think our comms department, Rolando, has helped us put this together, and then our stars of the video, Ricky and Jeremy, that have really, Jeremy's been the inspector that's really taken on this virtual inspection tool, and but all the inspectors are using it now, so we're excited about it. The next project that's been working on is expansion of our third-party inspections with Bureau Veritas. We've been working with them for about 3 years now as a kind of a as-needed or supplement inspection service process. They've been working about 3 days with us, but council approved an amendment to that contract last month to expand their role to do turnkey plan review and inspection for 6 subdivisions, which is a little over 1,000 lots, kind of on the edge of town, and it's where we have our production builders, and so we're onboarding them right now. We hope to have them, just up and running by the end of September to offload. It's D.R. Horton and Stylecraft are the main builders, and they're excited about it too because they'll Bureau Veritas will have a single inspector that will do all 4 inspections, the building and then the 3 trades. And it'll help with consistency. They'll have one inspector they'll be dealing with, and then it will offload about 30 to 40% of our residential permitting to Bureau Veritas. Wow. So again, bringing those numbers down so our inspectors can meet their daily deadlines and again, spend more time on their inspections to provide better customer service. So we're hoping this will help us meet that goal of 98% on our 24-hour inspection. So we're excited about this effort as well. Some of our public outreach efforts is our newsletter. We're about 1.5 years into it. It's a quarterly newsletter. Again, comms has helped us put this together, called Develop Waco newsletter. We have just over 2,300 subscribers to it, so it gets out to a lot of people. It's got information about some of our permitting data, new. If there's a new ordinance coming up, then to get information out, and then staffing issues, anything development related, we've been putting in those, and they're interactive. You can click on them, gives updates on projects, and so that's helped us get the word out, information out to our stakeholders. We have expanded our quarterly stakeholder meetings. We have a monthly developers group meeting that we hold both in our in-person and virtually. That's been going on for a long time, but we've also branched out and we do a quarterly meeting with the Heart of Texas Building Association, and then we've also just started this last quarter with the Association of General Contractors, meeting with them quarterly. Again, to just make connections with our stakeholders, talk shop, and have that open dialogue with them. We've also had some trade workshops. We've had our first one was with our electrical contractors. Again, it was kind of set up like a Letterman's top 10 of reasons why electrical inspections failed. Our building official, Chris Valtier, put those on with the goal of trying to reduce the failed inspections. And since he's done those for electrical inspections, we were at over a 40% fail rate. And since he's done these workshops, that's been reduced down. We're down in the low 30s now. So we've seen about an 8% reduction fill rates. Still want to improve with that, but we are seeing some improvements with that. And then another concept that we just introduced is our pre-construction meetings on larger projects for commercial development. And this is an opportunity for staff to meet with the contractors and the subcontractors on a project, just to get to know each other, lay out expectations, talk about any issues before the project gets started. And that's been, we've done some of these one-offs. For example, like the Graphics Packaging, we've been meeting with them weekly for over a year. And we did that with the Baylor project on the river. And we've had success with those, so we're expanding that now to most of our large commercial projects. We'll have pre-construction meeting now as a mandatory part of the permitting process. So excited about that. And then lastly, adoption of our new building code and electrical code. Currently we're under the international codes, the 2018 IBC and the 2020 National Electric Code. We are in the beginning processes of starting to adopt the new codes, 2024 I-codes and the 2023 NEC. The 2023 NEC is mandated by state law, so that's something we need to adopt to match what's required by state law. And then the I-codes are real important to our ISO 1 rating that we have. If you're more than 2 code cycles out, which 2018, they issue the codes every 3 years. So it's important for us to adopt this 2024 code so we're in compliance with that to keep that ISO 1 rating. The process for that, we do have a Building Inspections Advisory and Appeal Board that is made up of the trade experts, the construction experts from all the different fields. They'll start reviewing the codes and make recommendations to City Council in early 2025 so we can get those codes adopted. Where they're mandated or needed by the I-codes or by state law, those will be included, but there are some parts of the codes where we can do local amendments, and that's where we'll rely on that board to give us recommendations to bring to you. So recapping presentation, we are working diligently on improvements. We know we have some things we got to work on, but we have good staff and have good stakeholders and the support of management and council. We feel like we're heading in the right direction and excited to be working on all these efforts for improvement, and open up for any questions.
Any questions for Director Peters or comments?
Thank you, Clint. I think that this is incredible because we've been, I know our mayor has said for a while, even from his District 5 seat, that performing best in class is a priority, and that is kind of a sentiment of us all, and how we deliver in our processes and systems is a reflection of that. We've been talking about making it better for a while, so I'm glad to see we're finally making it better. You mentioned another city, the processes like that you liked in McKinney, right? And I'm, Main Street, copy and steal everything. When we implement this project and program, will that then check all the boxes if what you saw in McKinney that you wanted to replicate in Waco, or are there still other things?
Yeah, I mean, we need to make it fit what's best for us, but they have a good,
well, of course.
I think they have it's real easy, user friendly. It's a packet of information for each process. Mm-hmm. Here's what you need here's the things we'll be looking for. Here's the things that are required. Mm-hmm. It's check this, check that. It makes it, I think more consistent. Doesn't matter who's reviewing it or
correct.
Who's putting the information together. If we can get those put together and the processes and the procedures all on there, it will benefit everybody. So yeah, we'll continue to look at. Yeah, I'm with you. If somebody's doing it well, let's use it. And so we'll continue. McKinney was an example, but we'll continue to look at others and get that right. We have a lot of processes and a lot of permits, and that's going to take some time. But we'll start with the you know, the ones that are used the most and start, you know, dwindling down to, you know, everything, to get everything covered. But I think we have a really good opportunity to do that will help. That's you know, a pretty simple solution and a costly, you know, efficient solution where you're not having to spend a bunch of money to hire somebody. It's just putting this
Correct.
together. So we're excited about that opportunity.
You know, and I asked just because we're making such an investment in this, you know, I don't want to get down the road and be like, I wish I would have. I mean, there's always going to be room for improvement, but any major things. So if they need to be integrated into the technology, you know, you're not coming down the street and, you know, C-Ride's like, what did you do? Yeah, so, you know, we want to make sure we're walking in tandem with all the things.
Thanks for the presentation, Director Peters, great presentation. You know, last 6 or 8 years, we've had incredible, probably the busiest ever for permitting and inspections, and workload has increased exponentially. I really applaud staff, City Manager Ford and Director Peters for hiring this group to, you know, conduct a management study. How can we improve, you know, look inward, and identify the critical challenges that we have here. I mean, there's other companies that would just say, you know, hey, we'll figure it out, but we've got somebody in here to help, and I really think that's important, and I think it'll be fruitful too. And the second thing that you did that always impressed me, the outreach to the stakeholders. You know, even though you knew maybe some of that feedback wouldn't be what you wanted to hear, we got useful information on how to make this better. Because as Councilmember Bearfield mentioned, yeah, we are serious in the city of Waco about customer service. We want that to be, everybody to know that that's super important to us, and we strive to be best in class. So to me, it's about people, product, and process. And our product is to have that great service, and we've got the right people. And everybody on this council has super confidence in you. We appreciate your commitment to the city. But the processes, I think, that we are investing in here, the software and just kind of this kind of work right here, reflecting on how to improve. And just going down the list, the permitting process, the permitting software, that Mainstar, I just see so much benefit in that. The virtual inspection software, the view specs, just I think we're going to see great benefit there. The third-party inspection service that we talked about a couple sessions ago, where we're kind of offloading some of that on maybe simpler projects that are not that super complex. I think that's very smart. And then, like I said, public outreach, you're the best at it. And then getting some of that code refined too. We're on the right track here. And I'm really excited about what this looks like in 12 months as we get these new systems put in place. I appreciate you, Director Peters.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Bradley, I think we're right on schedule here at 5:05. Do we have work session 2024-702 next, or what do you want to do, Brad?
Clint, continue, and Clint, you may just pick the ones that, at least the two that require the supermajority. Let's highlight those.
Sure.
Just take 5 to 10 minutes to give an overview.
Sure. Yeah. I'll actually cover 3 because there's 2 that require the supermajority, but there was also one that had a lot of public input and some conditions on there, so I wanted to cover that one as well. And that's the public hearing 708. It's the final PUD plan for a new convenience store that's part of the Cowan Village Plan Unit Development, which is a new subdivision, mixed-use subdivision off Ritchie Road and Panther Way that's residential in the back, and then has some commercial elements to it in the front as well, you know, including our new Fire Station 15 and the water tower. So here's the plan. You can see the red area along Ritchie Road when this plan was adopted back in 2018 has about a commercial and office section of it, and so this is the first development of that commercial and office section for a commercial use, and it's for a convenience store, which is a allowable use in the PUD, so that the use has already been established with the PUD zoning back in 2018. Now they're coming in with their final PUD plans, which are specific plans for development of the site. So it's for a convenience store. We did get quite a bit of feedback from residents in the Callan Village neighborhood. So Plan Commission did continue the request a month, and it allowed some time for staff to set up a meeting with the developers and some of the neighborhood reps to see if they could work out some of the concerns. And so you'll see the conditions that are part of the recommendation. This is what some of the concerns that were addressed and what the developer agreed to, including conditions. So part of it is access to the site. Callan Boulevard has a median in the middle of the section, and so there was concern from the neighborhood that a lot of people would be doing U-turns in the neighborhood or coming through the neighborhood to get to the site. So they're going to work with our traffic department at development to potentially, I'm sorry, I'm going way too far, potentially put a median cut in that median there so where you can turn left into the gas station. So there's a condition about that. The facade of the building, you can see what they were proposing. The neighborhood actually wanted it to look a little bit more like our Fire Station 15. They like the look of that. So there's a condition about including some of the same materials, the stone and brick, in Fire Station 15 into this, and the developer agreed to that. There is a condition to limit the hours of operation from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., so it won't be a 24/7 gas station. And then to have the fume-reducing nozzles on the pumps. That's not a requirement in this area, but they're going to install those as well. And then the rest of them deal with landscaping and screening and some lighting requirements to just protect the neighborhood from any noise or light pollution from that. So we do have 7 conditions on that. And at the second meeting, there was no opposition at the Plan Commission meeting, and Plan Commission did recommend approval of it.
Clint, we appreciate your staff helping facilitate those conversations to move that forward, to make the essentially already approved use of the gas station more acceptable to the residents that are now living there since it was originally approved. So thank you.
Because I really like how you loaded, I mean, the conditions are all great and hammered out by the parties, which I love. But like that first bullet point, are we being asked to approve curb cuts at any certain places, or we're just saying that gets figured out?
Yeah, it says that.
Because it seemed like the dialogue at the Plan Commission was, can you flip back a couple to the map? Yeah, that one was all about where are the curb cuts, access egress on Paddington and Ritchie. And are we just saying, y'all, we'll figure that out later?
Well, so the condition, so one of the curb cuts, and that's mislabeled, that's not Paddington. Paddington's, and that's one of the things that got everybody excited.
It's Callan, I'm sorry.
Because Paddington's actually the residential street in the back, so that's Callan that comes in there. So one of the conditions is to remove one of the driveways, and then, so there'll just be one driveway off Callan.
Makes sense.
And then the location of that is still kind of up in the air, because you can see there's some acreage behind the gas station, between the gas station and where the lots are. That's about 200 feet. And so there might be opportunity to align that driveway to cross access both those developments when that development comes in. So I think we just wanted to put on record that staff is open to adjusting that median to allow an opening that will accommodate left turns into the site.
Okay, thanks, Clint.
Yeah. The next public hearing I wanted to talk about was 710. This is at 3001 MacArthur Drive. This is a city block that in our Dean Highland Neighborhood Association that's being requested from R2 residential to O3, which is a mixed-use commercial. This is off MacArthur, north of Hillcrest before you get to Park Lake. And you can see it is a city block. It's got residential units that actually face the property on Fidel, and then you can see all the residential around there. And then our land use plan calls for urban residential, and then you can see the R2. There is some existing commercial along MacArthur, already in place that's underutilized, so there is opportunity for commercial development on some of the existing properties. And so staff had concern about putting even O3, which is a pretty compatible use with residential, but because it faces residential and some of the commercial uses that could go in there, we felt like that was not compatible with the surrounding area. So staff did recommend disapproval. We did get a letter from or an email from the neighborhood association, kind of with the similar concerns about how it could impact the residential area. So Plan Commission did recommend disapproval on this one, which does trigger the supermajority requirement if council wants to approve it.
So, quick question, in these processes, and I don't know if this is you, Clint, or you, Bradley, in the processes, because I know that from our end, and I don't think it was disclosed at the Plan Commission meeting either, what, the use was. And I know that it's incredibly difficult to make decisions. As a neighbor, it would be, you would want to know maybe what was going in your neighborhood. And I know it makes it difficult for us because, you're looking at a vacant property that is for sale and, without knowing what could go in there because our use is broad, and it could be anything. So is there not a way that we could change that to actually require that information be disclosed? Because, when the people request zoning changes, I think they know what they want to put there.
Often they do. I think that there's a shift that we could make in that direction. And, for instance, when you're evaluating a zoning change like this, it's going to O3, is that right?
O3, yeah.
There's uses in O3 that might have a minor impact on traffic versus a major impact on traffic. And as y'all are deliberating and trying to make decisions on what the impact is of a zoning change, it would be helpful to narrow the variance to some degree. And so I think the staff and legal team can work in that direction. And I'd just give us a minute to try and figure out how we might do that. Because this isn't actually the only case. There's another case on the agenda where I think people even brought up some concerns like that, or it was in the floodplain, I think, part of it. It was in your district, I think, where a little more information might be helpful. And so let us think through that a little bit, and I'll get you an informal report on a direction we could take and see what the council's thoughts are.
Thank you.
And then the last one public hearing I wanted to cover was another recommendation for disapproval that requires a supermajority. This is some property on Webster Avenue and 16th Street. This area does have a lot of industrial along it, but the land use plan for this area does call for residential. And you can see, even though a lot of that's M2 zoning, the actual use of that block is all residential on the south side of Webster Avenue. And this property actually was M2 zoning that was rezoned to R2 about 4 years ago. And so they're wanting to rezone it back to M2, which doesn't fit our land use comprehensive plan, or, in our opinion, some of the zoning that's around there. That area's been transitioning more to residential. And you can see this is looking to the west, and so that block there, it's at the very end. You can see the residential uses on there. There are industrial uses across the street, but I think the trend is more to residential. So staff and Plan Commission both recommended disapproval on this. We are kind of back to the specific use on this. There is the possibility that what they're actually wanting to do would fit into another zoning district that would work. And so we are trying to have those discussions with them. If the M2 gets turned down, there might be another zoning district that would work for their specific use that we could recommend. But this will, because of the Plan Commission recommendation, this will require supermajority vote for approval. And the other three cases were all recommended, I think 9-0 for approval.
Okay. Thank you, Clint.
Thanks. Anything else, Bradley? Okay, we will now move, thanks again, Director Peters. We now move to work session 2024-703. That is future agenda items. Are there any requests for future agenda items? There are no agenda items, so we will now recess the work session, reconvene regular session for executive session as read into the record of the city secretary at 5:16 PM.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council will go into executive session in accordance with the following provisions. Real Property, Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.072, Downtown Development Project being the mixed-use development on city-owned and adjacent properties near City Hall. Real Property, Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.072, Economic Development, Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.087, and Security, Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.076. We are now in executive session.